Every truck on this list passed every test Detroit and Tokyo could throw at it on paper. Every single one of them is coming back to shops like mine right now, and the pattern is not what you'd guess. You want to know why the newest, most expensive trucks on the lot are the ones failing the fastest? There is a red Ram 1500 sitting on my lift right now with 41,000 miles on it. The owner bought it new, loaded, air suspension, the big screen, every option box checked. He financed it for 72 months. 11 months in, the truck threw a check engine light on the highway, dropped into limp mode, and rolled to the shoulder at 65 miles an hour with his daughter in the back seat. That is not a rare story. That is a Tuesday at my shop. My name is Wade Callahan. I have turned wrenches for 31 years. I started sweeping floors at a dealership when I was 17. I became a technician, then a master technician. I ran the service bay at 2 different dealerships before I opened my own independent shop 12 years ago. I have torn apart more transmissions, more wiring harnesses, and more turbo engines than most men will see in 3 lifetimes. And I am going to tell you something the showroom will never put on a window sticker. Some of the newest trucks rolling off the line right now are the least proven vehicles Detroit and its competitors have ever sold you. I made this mistake myself. In 2023, I bought one of the trucks on this list for my own driveway. I trusted the horsepower number. I trusted the badge. I ignored the one rule I tell every customer at my counter, and it cost me $9,000 in repairs before that truck hit 30,000 miles. I'm not proud of that story. It is exactly why I am telling you this one. Quick word before I go further. What I actually know about these trucks, the wiring diagrams, the service bulletins, the stuff that never makes it into a review, there is more of it than fits in one video. I put the whole of it into a book you can find linked in the pinned comment below. That is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not bring it up again. Before I go any further, I want you to picture that man on the shoulder of the highway again. Hazards on, semi-trucks blowing past 6 feet from his door, his daughter asking why the truck stopped working. That image is why I am not going to sugarcoat any of this. So here's the question that matters. Why do the newest trucks, the ones with the best crash ratings, the best horsepower, the best sounding names, keep coming back to my bay faster than trucks twice their age? The answer is not that these companies got worse at building trucks. The answer is that the trucks themselves got a lot more complicated, a lot faster than the testing did. Think about a truck from 1998. Simple frame, simple engine, a handful of systems that could actually break. If something went wrong, a good mechanic could usually see it, hear it, or smell it. Now think about a 2026 truck, a turbocharged engine paired with a battery pack, an air suspension system with its own computer, a 12-inch touchscreen running software that gets pushed out in updates, the same way your phone does. 40 or more separate computer modules all talking to each other over a network inside the truck, passing signals back and forth thousands of times a second. Every one of those systems is a new place for something to fail, and every one of those systems is brand new, which means nobody, not the engineers, not the dealership, not you, has watched it survive 10 years of real American driving yet. Here is the part that should make you a little uneasy. In the old days, a bad design took 3 or 4 years to show up in the data, because trucks did not change that much year to year. A 1994 half-ton and a 1997 half-ton were nearly the same truck under the skin. Now the tech stack changes every single model year. New battery chemistry, new transmission software, new infotainment architecture pushed out as an update while the truck sits in your driveway overnight. Which means every new model year is, in a very real sense, still being tested. And the people doing the testing are the folks who financed it for 72 months and parked it in their driveway expecting a finished product. Dealers are not lying to you when they tell you a new truck is a good truck. Most of them believe it. They have not seen the complaint data yet either, because that data has not been born yet. Independent reliability data on a new model typically takes 12 to 18 months of real-world driving to build up anything meaningful. By the time it exists, the dealership has already moved on to selling next year's version, with a new set of unknowns of its own. I have sat across the service counter and watched 2 different service managers tell a customer, with a straight face and a clean conscience, that a truck was solid 3 weeks before that same platform got its second recall of the year. They were not lying. They just did not know yet, because nobody did. Here's the tell, and I want you to remember this one thing if you remember nothing else from this video. When a manufacturer quietly extends a powertrain warranty on an engine or a battery pack, without a press release, without an ad campaign, just a service bulletin buried in the dealer system that most salesmen never even read, that is the company's own confession. Nobody extends a warranty on a part that is working exactly as designed. Warranties cost money. No accountant signs off on extending one out of generosity. Let me walk you through 5 trucks I'm seeing on my lift right now, why each one is landing there, and the one thing I would check on each of them before you sign anything. First, the Ram 1500. This is the truck on my list today. The complaints I see most are electrical, not mechanical, which is almost harder to fix than a broken part, because electrical gremlins hide. Wiring harness faults, infotainment modules that lose their mind and throw false codes with no pattern, transmissions that hesitate at a stop sign or clunk hard into gear on a cold morning. I have talked to other shop owners around the country, comparing notes the way mechanics do, and the number that keeps coming up is repair bills between $5,000 and $8,000, showing up right around 60,000 miles, which is right about when a lot of factory bumper-to-bumper coverage starts thinning out or expiring altogether. There have been multiple separate recall campaigns on this platform in the last 2 years, some of them on the exact same systems, reissued because the first fix did not fully solve it. Here is the trick. Before you finance a Ram 1500, do not just ask the salesman if there are any recalls. Pull the 17-digit VIN off the specific truck sitting on the lot, not a similar one, the exact one, and run it yourself through the free government recall lookup before you ever sit down at the finance desk. Salesmen do not always know. The database does, and it does not have a reason to sell you anything. Second, the Toyota Tundra, specifically the twin-turbo engine they started putting in these trucks in 2022. Toyota built its whole reputation, decades of it, on engines that run for hundreds of thousands of miles without a second thought. This one broke that streak and broke it badly enough that longtime Toyota owners noticed. Owners have reported the connecting rod bearings wearing down early, sometimes with metal shavings showing up in the oil far sooner than they ever should on a Toyota. That is not a small oil change conversation. That is the kind of wear that ends with a rebuilt or replaced engine. Toyota's response tells you everything you need to know without them saying a word about it publicly. They quietly extended the powertrain warranty on the affected engines out to 10 years or 150,000 miles. That is not a small gesture, and it is not something a healthy engine ever needs. That is a company covering a known weak point without admitting it out loud in a commercial. Here is the trick. If you are looking at a Tundra with this engine, do not just ask if it is covered under warranty. Ask specifically whether that VIN falls inside the extended 10-year window, by name, and get the answer in writing on the sales paperwork. Most dealers will not bring it up unless you ask for it directly. Third, the Ford F-150 PowerBoost Hybrid. On paper, this is the smartest truck on the list. A hybrid system should save you money at the pump and add power at the same time. And when it works right, it genuinely does both. In practice, I am seeing complaints about the hybrid battery module glitching or failing outside of normal patterns, sometimes throwing warnings for no reason a driver can point to, and owners describing the regenerative braking as jerky and inconsistent, especially in stop-and-go traffic, the exact kind of driving a work truck does every single day, not just on weekend trips. A braking system that feels unpredictable is not a small complaint. It is the one system in the truck you cannot afford to second-guess at a red light with cross-traffic. Here's the trick. When you test drive this truck, do not just take the smooth highway loop the dealer hands you, the one built to make every truck feel effortless. Drive it exactly the way you will actually use it. Stop and go, parking lots, traffic lights, a hard stop or two if traffic allows it safely. That braking feel either bothers you in the first 10 minutes or it does not, and you will not find that out at 60 miles an hour on an open road with nothing in front of you. Fourth, the Rivian R1T. This one is different from the other three because Rivian is a young company without a decade of these trucks on the road yet to learn from. I am seeing electrical component issues and build quality complaints, panel gaps, sensor faults, software hiccups that require a reboot to clear. None of that automatically makes it a bad truck, and I want to be clear about that. New companies can absolutely fix these problems as they learn, the same way any manufacturer improves a platform over its first few years. But here's the trick, and it is less a mechanical trick than a math trick, the kind of thing most buyers never think to ask about. Because Rivian has sold far fewer trucks than Ford or Ram, every single defect that shows up carries more statistical weight in the reliability data than the same defect would on a bestseller. A problem that would be a rounding error for a company selling 1 million trucks a year is a real signal for a company still building its track record one model year at a time. Treat new company as a real variable when you are pricing your risk, not just a detail in the brochure, and budget accordingly for the first couple of years. Fifth, the Tesla Cybertruck. I want to be fair here because this truck gets more attention than any vehicle I have worked on in 3 decades, good and bad, and a lot of that attention is not really about mechanics at all. But the recall list is not opinion, it is public record, and it is longer than almost anything else on the road right now. There was a recall covering roughly 46,000 trucks for a decorative steel trim piece along the roofline that could separate while driving. There was a separate recall for an accelerator pedal pad that could shift out of place under hard pressure, which is about as serious as a defect gets in a vehicle this heavy. There was a recall for front lighting that was too bright and distracting for oncoming drivers. And heading into this year, there is a recall tied to wheel hubs and brake rotors cracking on rough roads and hard cornering, which in plain language means a wheel stud can separate from the hub while you are driving. One of the more alarming defects I have read about in a modern production vehicle. Tesla is fixing all of this at no cost, and to their credit, they move fast once a pattern is confirmed and documented. But here's the trick. Run the 17-digit VIN of the specific truck through the federal recall lookup yourself before you take delivery, not after you drive it home. Do not trust a verbal assurance from anyone that the recall work has already been done. Ask for the actual service invoice with the date and the part numbers on it. I want to mention one tool while I am on this, because it is the cheapest insurance you can buy for any of these 5 trucks, and almost nobody in my customer base owns one until after something breaks. A basic OBD2 code reader costs about $25 at any auto parts store, sometimes less on sale. It plugs into a port under your dashboard, usually right below the steering column, and it will show you pending codes, the early warnings the computer already knows about, sometimes weeks before a check engine light ever forces the issue into the open. My own truck, the one that cost me $9,000, had a pending code sitting quietly in its computer for 2 weeks before it actually stranded me on the road. I did not check because I told myself a professional does not need to check his own truck. That was pride talking, not experience. If I had spent 5 minutes with a $25 tool, I would have caught it in my own driveway on a Saturday morning, instead of on the side of a highway with my hazards blinking. Here is the bigger picture, and this is the part I actually want you to sit with. None of this is really about trucks. It is about money, and it is about trust. A 72-month loan means you are going to be tied to this vehicle for 6 years, through every oil change, every recall notice, every unexplained noise. Run the math on a $55,000 truck at a normal interest rate over 72 months, and you are paying for a vehicle you have not even finished testing yourself. If that truck spends more weekends in my bay than in your driveway, you have not bought a truck. You have bought a very expensive lesson, one payment at a time. The truck that impresses you on the showroom floor under bright lights, with the engine off and the salesman standing 3 feet away, is not the same truck that has to survive your actual commute, your actual towing, your actual winters for the next 6 years. Flashy is not the same thing as proven, and horsepower on a spec sheet has never once fixed a wiring harness. My father, who taught me this trade before dealerships ever let me near a lift, used to say the truck that talks the loudest in the lot is usually the one with the least to prove on the road. I did not understand what he meant until I had my own name on a service bay door. Now I watch it happen every week. So here is what I want you to do tonight, whether you already own one of these trucks or you are shopping for one this weekend. Pull up the Federal Recall website on your phone right now, not tomorrow tonight, while it is still on your mind. Type in the 17-digit VIN, either the truck you own or the exact truck sitting on the lot you are considering, not a similar one, the exact one. Do not stop at the recall count. Read the actual complaint narratives underneath it in the owner's own words, because that is where the real pattern shows up, weeks or months before it becomes an official recall. If you are still shopping, ask the dealer in writing whether any technical service bulletins exist for that VIN, not just recalls. A service bulletin is a quieter version of the same warning. 5 minutes tonight will tell you more than any brochure, any test drive, or any salesman ever will. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 trucks you already own and what your VIN check turned up, good or bad. I read every single one of them. Next time, I'm going to show you the used trucks nobody talks about, the ones quietly outlasting their loans years after everyone stopped paying attention to them, including one full-size truck most people wrongly assume is unreliable for reasons that stopped being true almost a decade ago. Until then, check the VIN before you check the box, and remember that the loudest showroom in town has never once fixed a single wiring harness, saved anyone a repair bill, or gotten a stranded family off the shoulder of a highway.